What fact is ignored generously? If you edit your comment to add, "Thanks for the gold, kind stranger," the kind stranger will probably never see that edit, but everybody else will and will be annoyed. However, if you reply to the notification DM about the award, the kind stranger will see it for sure, and you would not bother anybody else. That's wisdom. I always assumed they did the edit because the gold giver is anonymous. I've never gotten gold, so it never occurred to me. Now I'm having retroactive aggravation for all the times I've read it. Just because a movie or a book is good doesn't mean you like it. And vice versa, of course. Yeah, I know it's trash, now let me get back to it. That's a good way to put it. You can appreciate that something is well written, good at engaging its target audience, etc., without actually liking the work yourself. This applies to crime as well as healthcare. Prevention is more affordable than treatment. Not just in medicine, but in most any societal problem. Look at the coronavirus. How many lives could have been saved if decisive action was taken earlier? Hi, I am American. It's also been shown that increasing funding to social programs reduces poverty and homelessness, and is usually cheaper than just dealing with those problems directly after they arise. We will also pay a huge price for our inaction around climate change. Being at a job for a long time does not mean someone is good at their job. I work in government. This is absolutely a true statement. I work with people who I think were here before the dinosaurs, who basically are bulletproof employees that are just riding things out until retirement. That we all have confirmation bias. Yeah, I have to remind myself frequently, you are not always right. You probably don't know what you're talking about as much as you think you do. Remember the Dunning-Kruger effect. This is most prevalent in online political discussion in my experience. Once you get into some arguments on Reddit in fields that are actually more knowledgeable than 99% of the population, you will realize that people who are completely clueless will still argue to death their point and never admit defeat. Human memory is extremely unreliable. We forget important details. We fabricate memories and convince ourselves that they're true. What we do remember is distorted to conform to our biases. Humans overestimate what they can do in a day and underestimate what we can achieve in a year. I feel like this is switched. I often have lots of things to get done in a day and don't think I'll be able to get to all of them. But then I can actually get through it without issue. Contrarily, I often have big hopes for what will happen a year ahead, but never end up following through. A year may be too much. I try to break the year down into 4 seasons. Get 1 or 2 important things done in that time. With seasons, you can also sense them progressing because of all the cues like weather, so it's easier to focus on the time passing. This winter, I made my new business website and got my eyes lasered. This spring, I drank wine and cleaned the bathroom a lot. Stupid pandemic. The number of people who die after a war to the consequences of war, hunger, disease, etc. are not counted in the statistics. Talking for France here. Some people who died between the 9th and the 11th of November 1918 were not counted as dead these days, because that would be quite awful for a family to learn that your husband, brother, son, father died the last day before the war stopped. Admitting to a mistake is not a sign of weakness. Bending over backwards to cover it up and pretending like it never happened is. It is in your best interests too. If you don't own your mistakes, others will and may use them against you. Be careful which mistakes you own. Turns out, bragging about your restraining orders doesn't get you a second date. That just because someone tells you something is a fact doesn't mean that it is. Make sure to do your research. So many random facts are just made up and posted on social media as if they're true. They then get screenshotted and posted on Reddit and other social media. Then some messy media source will pick up on the Reddit post and use it as their source, which will then get shared on social media as a more legit source. Then everyone believes something somebody on Twitter made up to look woke. Here are some facts, all wrong, posted on Reddit thousands of times a day that will result in more getting people killed. Masks don't work. Only N95 masks work. Masks don't work unless fitted properly. Yes for smoke inhalation, no for a mask being effective to prevent virus transmission. Masks only help prevent a sick person from spreading the virus and don't offer any protection for a healthy person against the virus. Bandanas, scarves, and homemade masks don't help or provide any protection. Surgeon masks don't help, don't really provide protection. You need a N95 mask. You can't buy masks online right now. All these statements are the opposite of what top international experts on infectious disease have said. Here is a bonus lie repeated so many times that will also get people killed. You can't be reinfected again after you have COVID-19. Temporary immunity for some period is possible, but there is no specific basis to expect permanent immunity to COVID-19. Just because some people are naturally talented doesn't mean you shouldn't work hard. Hard work can beat talent when talent doesn't work hard, as my undergrad advisor was fond of saying. But when talent works hard, it's game over. The importance of getting 7 to 9 hours of sleep every single night. To add to this, 7 to 9 hours of sleep is not the same as 7 to 9 hour sleep opportunity window. If you're giving yourself a 7-hour sleep opportunity window, you are not getting 7 hours of sleep, probably more like 6. Valid point. Older doesn't always mean wiser. Wisdom is obtained from what you do with your time. It's not about how much time you had. Just remember, stupid people get old too. Or at least the lucky ones do. Just because it's legally allowed doesn't mean you're not a douchebag for doing it. Example, free speech isn't freedom from consequence. You legally can say near whenever you want. Doesn't mean people won't call you a dick for it. I love freedom of speech and support everyone exercising their right because it lets me know exactly where the means are. Therefore, I can avoid them. You are not immune to propaganda. Fun word fact. The term propaganda originally referred to a Catholic Church committee for propagating the faith during the Counter-Reformation. This comment was brought to you by Big Etymology. Actually, propaganda comes from when a British person gets a good look at something. Mob mentality doesn't mean you are right. This needs to be higher. We'll solve 85% of the world's problems. Never underestimate the stupidity of people in large groups. Facts aren't opinions. Data can also be cherry-picked or incomplete. That's why facts can change sometimes. Someone had to say it. Opinions influence what facts we choose to acknowledge. Everyone is a huge hypocrite when it suits them, including me. The irony of this statement is that if you're ever in a situation where being a hypocrite would suit you, but you aren't a hypocrite, then you are a hypocrite because you said you would be, but weren't. So basically, you're a hypocrite because you weren't a hypocrite. Depends on the agenda of people doing the ignoring. People only care about the facts that agree with them. Confirmation bias, which coincidentally is a fact that most ignore because it doesn't really agree with anyone. The government is trying to pass an anti-encryption bill that could strip away any and all privacy given to US citizens. Depending on enforcement, it would only annihilate the economy of literally any country it was passed in and completely cut it off from all international banking. Never underestimate the power of stupid people in large groups. Great minds think alike, but fools rarely differ. Animals are much more brutal than people realize. We only see the cute cuddly side on the internet. Cheetah makes friends with a goat, gets more views than warthog gets eaten alive by lions and lasts a surprisingly long time while it's happening. Animals will eat you alive if they don't think you're a threat to injury. It's out of survival something bigger and badder might come along and they won't have eaten anything. No, the leopard didn't kill the animal before eating it out of compassion. It just didn't want to take a hoof to the head while it was having lunch. I watched 3 lionesses hunt a warthog and its piglet up close once. 2 of the lionesses made themselves seen while the third slid behind a small mound and snuck through the grass. The warthog stayed focused on the 2 lions in the open. The hunter got within a few feet and crouched low, ready to strike. Something alerted the warthogs and they took off like a rocket. The lioness, being the queen of the savannah, rolled on her side and started licking her paw. Hugely disappointing. That you should really get off your phone and go to sleep. Quitting is often a good decision. One of my favorite things I've seen on the internet is where people take the text from motivational workout posters and superimpose it over images depicting alcoholism. Fight through adversity with a picture of classic puke and rally. Being rich doesn't mean you're great with money or someone who should be trusted with business decisions. Or smart. People love to assume that. And being rich doesn't mean you have class. Just because I don't agree with you doesn't mean I hate you. And conversely, just because I agree with you doesn't mean I like you. Both of these points are excellent.